We like to think of robots and other forms of technology as friendly servants who make our lives easier, like R2-D2 and C-3PO from Star Wars. They're endlessly self-sacrificing colleagues who've been put into this world to help their human creators. For instance, automation technology on board ships is designed to make the shipping industry prosper and help the seafarer to thrive. But even though a great deal of money is invested in this kind of technology, it isn't always as friendly and accommodating as our two friends from Star Wars. The equipment installed in ships represents 70% of their cost, and a growing proportion of this equipment is digital. This technology has been introduced in order to make shipping safer and more efficient, and to make people's working lives easier. But in fact, digital technology doesn't always make life on board easier. Sometimes the opposite is true. Shipping companies, government institutions, and other stakeholders in the maritime sector expect digital technologies to fundamentally alter realities in the shipping industry, making shipping safer and more efficient, as well as relieving navigators of some of the dull, routine work they normally have to do. Ultimately, digital technologies could even result in the production of autonomous ships that don't need navigators at all, because technology will do all the work. However, even though digital technology is supposed to make navigation easier, and indeed often does make it easier, our research shows that the effect is sometimes the opposite. Actually, new technology demands much more work than is often assumed. Technology developers and shipping companies often presume that digital technologies are one-size-fits-all, plug-and-play, or turnkey solutions that require a minimum of resources and effort to install and use. But no two ships are the same, so the idea that digital technology could and should work seamlessly with existing equipment and well-established work practices on board leads us to overlook the extra work and ongoing attention that such technology demands from its users. Technology has needs. People have to learn how to use it, and, like a new colleague, it must be adapted to suit existing routines and workflows. Unlike traditional navigation charts and sextants, which are almost as immutable as the night sky, digital navigation technologies are forever changing. New versions are produced on a regular basis, and systems have to be adjusted and updated. As one first mate has said, they only work properly if they're looked after and nurtured like a small plant. In other words, to work effectively, digital technologies demand awareness and attention, almost like a new colleague. Digital technologies are both more advanced and more opaque than traditional navigational aids. They are opaque in the sense that vital functions are often hidden in the submenus, and these functions may also be given new names or locations in updated versions. These are basic problems which are familiar to most office workers, but on board ships there are no IT departments or hotline services to help out in critical situations. Digital technologies require the crew to attain new skills, and their abilities need to be updated on a regular basis. Crew members regularly report that they receive no training in new digital technologies that are installed on board. Even in relatively critical situations, after they have left port, they are left to themselves and have to cope with the new technology or a software update on their own. Information overload is also a major concern among navigators. Life on the bridge is full of alarms, sounds that require the crew to do something. One former navigator told us that it was not unusual to have 150 of these alarms going off each hour. Alarms always sound terribly important, but often they're just updates of little or no consequence. Even so, they require the navigator's attention because he or she has to acknowledge them to make them stop. The problem is both the sheer number of these alarms and the fact that many of them emit the same sound, making it impossible to distinguish the critical alarms from the trivial ones. In other words, these alarms interrupt you constantly, taking far too much of your valuable attention, time, and energy. In extreme cases, digital technologies on the bridge might even jeopardize safety. At night, all the lights on the bridge have to be turned off to help the people keeping watch. But sometimes technology developers forget to equip their screens with a dimmer. This forces navigators to block off their screens with a piece of cardboard to keep the bridge in darkness. So even though the technology might be extremely useful, it can't be used because it's emitting too much light. Technologies are developed by technology companies on land. Unfortunately, not all tech developers have sufficient knowledge of the actual working conditions on board ships. However, they often have little opportunity to learn about the actual needs and working conditions on board, owing to slow and difficult lines of communication in shipping companies, and to a lack of willingness to allow developers the necessary access to the vessels concerned. Digital technologies are often created to assist navigators or to tell them what to do. But it's not always clear whether machines are offering advice or issuing commands. So, digital technologies sometimes upset the usual chain of command on board by giving the crew orders. If it is not clear whether a new technology is intended to supply information to support the crew in their decision-making, or whether the technology is issuing instructions that simply have to be obeyed, the captain is left facing a dilemma. Captains have ultimate responsibility for what happens on board, but should they obey orders issued by a machine with which they do not necessarily agree? Even though they keep an open mind about digitalization, most navigators and other seafarers agree that central values of good seamanship are healthy skepticism and critical judgment. Such critical judgment often depends on trusting their senses instead of relying on technology for support when making decisions. They use their eyes and ears all the time. They recognize the smell of smoke or hot metal, and they can detect a change in vibration when a ship's engine is broken or just a bit out of balance. These senses are acquired through experience and are crucial when it comes to detecting safety hazards or preventing accidents. What sometimes troubles navigators, though, is that they are increasingly asked to trust technology. They are asked to put their faith in digital technologies that they are often not fully trained to use and maintain. From their point of view, it is reckless to trust a technology that might fail or that they do not fully understand. The point is that these technologies could be far more beneficial if they were developed, installed, implemented and evaluated in far closer collaboration with the people who are actually going to use them on board. The shipping industry could benefit from creating more settings in which technology developers could meet and get professional feedback from seafarers. And seafarers and safety on board ships could benefit if digital technologies had a stronger focus during their initial training and subsequently played a larger part in maritime certificates for competency. If these changes are not made, the chances are that too much good energy and money will be wasted on smart technologies which are actually ill-suited to life and people on board.